We'd have been better off to right now.
I'd like to call the council meeting to order. At this time, if you would please stand, and Mark Livingston will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful rain-free day. Be with those that are suffering from the weather that we've had in the past couple of weeks. Be with those that have people in the military and serving elsewhere. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay. Mary, when you're ready, if you would call roll, please.
Livingston.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Ehlers. Here. Heaton.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Hurt. Beach.
Thank you, Mary. Hearing of citizens' comments, we have a good crowd here tonight, and I imagine there are some people that would like to make some comments. This is the time that you need to do that. If you would please step to the podium. You have 5 minutes in which to voice your opinion to the council, and so now's the time to do that. Please sign your name. The paper is there. If you would sign your name and your ward number.
I'll be first.
Okay. Somebody has to be first.
I'm here to talk about the potential park in the Kemper parade grounds, the front grounds. And I guess hearing Jim Gann earlier, I think it's a bit premature to talk about that being the final location. Should the science building be developed, just how much of a meditative facility we're going to have. The other thing you need to keep in mind is I live right next to it. And that facility is used as a playground by the young people of the neighborhood. I think it's a wonderful use. They hit baseballs and they throw footballs and soccer balls. And again, I don't think that lends itself particularly well to a meditative effect. One concern that my wife has is when we entertain on the deck and somebody's down in the meditative garden, who's going to yield? And again, I just think there are better locations given all its influx with the Kemper campus. The one thing I would caution you on is what kind of park is this going to be and who's going to endow the care of the facility? If we're talking water sites, reflective gardens, fountains, what is Gary going to need? $50,000 a year? $100,000 a year? It's going to require daily care. A bunch of trees down there, and as one who rakes that regularly and mows it, lots of stuff comes off. That's all going to end up in the water. So give it some thought. I'm certainly not opposed to the idea. I think it makes a lot of sense, but perhaps not there. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Even though everybody knows who you are, be sure and announce who you are.
Good evening, I'm Dan Gregg. I'm with the Central Missouri Cancer Memorial Park Foundation. It's a foundation that was formed over 2 years ago. Our purpose is to create a meditative place to honor those that have lost their battle with cancer and those like me that is fighting the battle. We originally had an original design with some water, with fountains, things like that, but that was all an initial thought process on what we could create. First of all, the final park will be determined by what location we have, the setting, the ground, the topographical ground. So that is not our only option on what we were going to do. But the one thing that as a foundation that we're trying to achieve is we're trying to create a place that provides serenity, that someone could come, pay tribute to their loved one, those that are fighting, or go down there themselves if they're in the middle of a fight, and know that that's a place that they can have a tranquil place to be. I know that there's been a lot of locations that have been talked about, city parks. As the foundation, we do not feel that a city park is a good place for a tranquil location, because you've got ball games going on, you've got people screaming and hollering. It goes well beyond a few kids throwing a soccer ball around or kicking a football around. But our goal is to provide a tranquil location. Also, we don't feel that downtown on Main Street, especially the Steinhaus location, would be beneficial for us. First of all, the two largest bars in Boonville are located catty corner and across the street from that. Both of those bars are non-smoking bars. You go down there at night, you see people outside smoking. Well, if we create a park where we want to have benches, we want to have places that people can come and sit, we can see people coming from those bars and going into our park and sitting down and smoking cigarettes instead of standing outside. So we like that. All we're trying to achieve, and I know we've again talked about a lot of locations, is that whatever you decide on, please bear in mind that the number one priority we have is tranquility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dane.
Good evening, honorable members of the City Council. My name is Charlie Malkersman. I, as well as Dane, represent CMCMP. I don't wish to be redundant to Dane, even though the topic calls for redundancy. It's that important from that standpoint. What my indication is my encouragement tonight is for all the City Council people present to create the dialogue that's necessary tonight to bring this issue to closure. As Dana alluded to, there have been several actual locations that Earl was kind enough to put in a memo to all of the City Council. He's very explicit with what those locations were. Again, as most are aware of, we've had a fixation, with the Kemper campus, and I think rightfully so, with respect for the board. Wes Davis is here tonight too. He's on the board because of what Dane just outlined from that standpoint. We're looking at the best spot that will create serenity and tranquility for this park. It's a very important situation. I've indicated this before. I think the park will fit well into whatever strategic plan comes forth with Kemper itself overall, whether it's at that location or another location at Kemper. I think we presented to the group, we presented to the park board, who came back and made a recommendation, certain drawings, as Dane alluded to. Those are tentative drawings. They're based on where the park may be located. But again, we wanted to put something in front of people to get an idea of what the park may look like from that standpoint. I think, again, with Earl's memo that I saw in tonight's packet, he's very explicit, again, on where that second option is. Again, every council member should have seen the memo that was from the CMCMP indicating what the first option was that we preferred, of course, and the second option, with both options being down at Kemper. So again, tonight, and there was reference about advocacy or support. I truly believe every meeting that we've been to, whether it be at the park board or whether it be city council members, we've had people that come and supported this. More members, more people could come still yet of that nature, but it's been there. It's been there to the point, I think, greater than probably most issues that the council reviews, at each council meeting from that standpoint. And, just in closing, this decision, is a decision that sometimes when you look at a strategic plan, you may have to look at that and kind of set that aside, and, the financials and et cetera, which, again, we've talked about how this thing would be endowed and where we would go forward with that. That's been said and said time again. But sometimes I think it's just very important to look into someone's heart and take a look and see what they feel about something and vote in that manner. I'm not saying set aside what's best for the community, what's best for the Kemper strategic plan, et cetera, but sometimes, you can get kind of analysis paralysis, if that's what you may want to say. And again, I encourage dialogue that's necessary tonight to bring this to closure and present a location back to the CMCMP. Again, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
Bob Kemp, Ward 3. This is old news, but I would just like to say that we better thank our lucky stars we got the Olive Capri here in Boonville, because everything's closed up in Boonville. We're losing so much, and we better do anything we can for them people. I met Mr. Todd Connery sitting at a council meeting here one night, and I think he's general manager down there. And every time I see him, I thank him for the Olive Capri. And he said, well, thank Boonville, because I've got a good job down here. And, we could have lost out that to Jeff City, but now we got people coming to Jeff City. We got people coming to Columbia. We spend money on Columbia. If I see somebody, I say, well, now we're getting some of Columbia money back in Boonville. So I just think that anything we can do, because the Olive Capri supports a lot of things for Boonville, we better thank them people. I know some people didn't agree with it. A lot of people didn't want that in Boonville. But I think it's one of the greatest things happening in Boonville. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Albert Turner, Ward 2, and I'm here today to speak really in opposition of the outsourcing, I guess I should say, of the water treatment plant. And maybe just to share with you the reason why I'm having a little bit of a problem with it is, number one, we've seen, it looks like we're on a slippery slope here. We've seen, as the gentleman just mentioned, we lost Butternut, Nordine, and Indigo. And if I can read, and if I can believe what's in the newspaper, they were telling me that that was around maybe 1,000 jobs involved in there that we lost. Now, I don't know whether all of those were employees of Boonville or not, but here we are again, now talking about outsourcing our water treatment plant, and may lead to even more loss of jobs for our employees. And I guess I feel fairly strongly that if we have some control over it, have a voice, then I'd like to see my tax dollars go to people that live in this community and have a vested interest in this community. Not an outsource that probably is more concerned about a bottom line than they are the citizen in this town of Boonville. So for that reason, number one, I would be opposed to it. Also, I understand again from the newspapers that one of the reasons we're doing this is because of regulations and some of the requirements, and we're looking for more expertise or whatever to carry out these programs or requirements. And I guess, again, I would question, did we not see this coming? I mean, do we surely have a strategic plan where we plan ahead and we see these things coming? And don't we have a requirement to train, develop our people to better deal with these kinds of issues as they come along? I hope so. I hope we do have that. I don't know, but I hope we do. So, for those reasons, I just don't think it is the best thing for Boonville. And I I guess my thought would be, if we need expertise, why couldn't we do that through consultant work? Bring in the experts we need to get us through what we need to do, and let's develop our people to handle these responsibilities. But again, I'm going on basically what I've read through the newspapers. I don't have the full story. I haven't been here to the meetings, but I plan to attend more often and get the details right from here. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Welcome to Boonville.
Somebody took the paper.
It may be all right if they did.
My name's Tom Bosley. I was here 2 weeks ago opposed to this water treatment takeover. Mr. Turner said a lot of things a lot better than I could say. I was reading in the paper, in the Voice the other day, that it's going to save the city $45,000 if you outsource this. $45,000, you people waste more money of that in a year's time. You know, some of these things that you give money to, I know not every citizen in the city is happy with it. I'm not going into detail what I think you're giving money to that I don't agree with, but so $45,000 is not much money. And if you keep your employees, which I'm told you're not going to, you're not going to have a position for them. So there's where you're saving your money. If you did keep the employees, like one of the persons at the city said, well, they were going to have a job. They might have a job, but they weren't going to be city employed. But if you did keep them on city payrolls, you've already lost your $45,000. I just don't think that Boonville is a big enough town to outsource their water, and the people, when you do that, we are losing control. The people, not necessarily me, I'm part of the people. And Earl said 2 weeks ago at the meeting that they had discussed this. Maybe you have, but you never have discussed it in public. You discussed it at meetings, and the public didn't come. Something this important, I think they need to have some public meetings. And I know that some of those aren't well attended, but they ought to have the opportunity to voice their opinion, not what they read in a paper that we get 3 times a week or once a week, because they print what you guys want them to hear, what you tell them, because the public has not had any input into this except Mr. Turner and I is the only ones I know of. So I'm asking you not to vote for it, and if there's a problem out there, let's get it done. Let's get it fixed. It can be fixed. It doesn't take much. And these people, they're just in it for the money. You ought to realize that. And I'm sure you do. They're doing this for a profit. You should be doing it for a non-profit. And that's what governments are supposed to do. Our federal government's a little behind. We're lucky, like Bob Kemp said, to have the boat. And I had a man tell me today if the boat left, our property wouldn't be worth a dang because we couldn't afford to pay the real estate taxes. And there's a good point. Every business we lose personal property taxes on the equipment that's in that building, and we lose real estate taxes on the value of that building. So that's all I've got. I'll take any questions you've got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Any other comments?
Can I ask one more question?
You have 5 minutes, so
Okay.
you still have about 2 left.
This just came to me when I saw Cawthorn. If you vote this to accept it, is Earl and ML going to take a pay cut because they're going to have less responsibilities?
Yes, my name's Bill Gibson, and I just retired from the city and everything. And I understand that this is done because of the management out at the water plant and stuff. Well, that didn't just happen here recently. It's been going on for a good while then. And I wonder why it wasn't taken care of then and then brought to y'all. And I'm also against it, but I know all the guys that works out there, and they're good people, and I hate to see them lose a job, but there's been enough jobs around here lost. And that's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anyone else like to make a public comment this evening?
My name's Joe Haller. I'm in the new 4th Ward, and I wasn't going to make any comment, but I just can't stand it. I have to. You all know I'm never at a loss for an opinion. And one observation that I would like to bring to your attention is when people come up here to make a comment, it would be nice if everybody would look at that person instead of looking down, writing, texting, or whatever is happening. It would be a courteous thing to look at that individual. I think we're entitled to that. If we bring ourselves up here and expose ourselves, you should look at us. I think the Kemper location for the cancer park is ideal. I agree with Dane and Charlie that it is the most serene. You go down to the street, you have big trees, you have shade. It's the most serene spot that I have heard of, and I would like the council to consider that favorably. Another thing I want to comment on is the outsourcing of the water plant. I agree with Bill Gibson that this is something that didn't happen 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago or even 3 years ago. I talked to various council members about the reason for this being considered, and I got a variety of responses. A lot of them dealt with the fact that people out there just kind of did what they wanted to. And the housekeeping up there was deplorable, that it was dirty, that it was filthy. And Ned Beach even told me when he was elected, he made a tour, and it was terrible then. And I guess my question is, why wasn't something done about it? I mean, who is in charge? Isn't somebody charged with the responsibility to manage those people? I also questioned someone about the fact that the people who are charged with managing people for the city, do they not have such a thing as performance appraisals on a regular basis? I mean, where you sit down with your employee and say, you know, you really do a good job in this area, but I would like for you to concentrate on improving in another area, and then document a file that you have talked to that individual. Why would you let something go on for years and then all of a sudden say, oh, I can't fix it, let's hire somebody else in here and let them be the action? And that's about what I think it's going to be. I think the employees that are out there are being treated unfairly in that some of them have worked for years for the city. Now, whether they've been good employees or bad, I don't know. But they are entitled to being counseled along if they were bad so they could improve. And they're just kind of being thrown under the bus, is what it amounts to. They don't know whether they're going to be rehired, they don't know how much money they're gonna make or what their benefits are gonna be. And what is this going to say to your other city employees? This is how city government takes care of their employees? I mean, I agree that not everybody is a good employee, but that's why we have managers. You either make them be a good employee or you get rid of them. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Thank you, Joe. Any other public comments?
Madam Mayor, I'm not as eloquent as the other speakers who have spoken on the cancer park tonight. I like to say things short, sweet, to the point. The cancer park needs to be someplace local, not stuck out of the way, and it needs to be someplace where you can sit and think and reflect quietly. We've all been touched by cancer, whether directly or indirectly. Family, friends, whatever. This is a place that we need to be able to sit and think about those people, think about ourselves, and it needs to be a place that is shaded, has an atmosphere that makes you want to be there, not something you want to come in and leave real quick because you have external noise or you have people hanging around all over. I understand the residents who live in the area. I understand their concerns. I just ask that you consider the atmosphere of this location, please. Thank you.
Thanks, TC. Any other comments? Last chance. Okay, I think that's it. We will move along to approval of the minutes of the May 20th, 2013 council meeting. They were in your packet, and you've had plenty of time to, the draft is in there, you've had plenty of time to look at them. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing and hearing none, they will stand as presented. Consent items, we have none. Presentation of accounts and claims. Mary, when you're ready.
Ordinance appropriating money. Be it ordained by the Council of the City of Boonville as follows. Section 1, for the purpose of paying salaries and various accounts against the City of Boonville, which have been allowed by the Council at the regular meeting thereof on June 3rd, 2013, the sum of $553,525.04. General Fund, $271,737.32. Sanitation, $27,963.74. CIP tax, $12,445.93. Waterworks, $77,313.23. Capital projects, $707.35. Wastewater, $89,513.19. Tourism, $4,551.60. Gaming, $69,292.68. Parks, water, 0. Section 2, the bookkeeper is hereby authorized and instructed to draw checks on the respective city bank accounts in favor of the persons whose salaries and accounts have been allowed as above, amounting to $553,525.04, being the total amount of money above appropriated. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage. First reading on June 3rd, 2013. Read for the second time this third day of June 2013, since a copy was made available prior to the meeting.
Second reading, title only.
Ordinance appropriating money.
Mark,
Mayor, I move we approve this ordinance.
do I hear a second? Mark?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Livingston,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Ayers,
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to unfinished business. Second reading of Bill Number 2013-018, authorizing a professional service agreement between the City of Boonville and Alliance Water Resources Incorporated. Mary?
An ordinance of the City of Boonville, Missouri, authorizing a professional services agreement for the management, operations, and maintenance of the water treatment plant by and between the City of Boonville, Missouri, and Alliance Water Resources Incorporated, providing an effective date therefore, and repealing all ordinances in conflict with this ordinance.
Okay. Mark,
Mayor, I move we approve this ordinance.
do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion. Morris?
I've got a few questions.
Okay.
If someone can let me know, when did this problem, or when did the city recognize they had a problem and need to address this issue?
I think
Yeah.
Earl.
Why don't I give you a quick overview of the journey that we went down on it, and it'll, I think, respond to a lot of the other comments we've heard. We're looking at the water plant, so let's put it in context. I think I came back here about 6 or 7 years ago. I walked in the door, nobody to reconcile the bank account for 6 months. General fund was $750,000 in a hole. Water plant was not, it only had about $100,000 of the good. So the water plant was not on the top of the list for some period of time. At that same period of time, there was something going on called disinfection byproducts, which was a sort of a new issue that was thrust upon by DNR on the water plant. And that whole issue and trying to resolve a response to it probably went on for 3 years. And I know it's not necessarily bad, it's just a very complex issue that went on, trying to figure out how you could conjure a method to address that issue. What it did give you was an appreciation that things had become pretty complex and pretty technical at the wastewater plant. One of the things that came from that was a CO2 installation. That was one of the fixes to the issues of the disinfection byproduct problem. During that 3-year trial and error period, we had a temporary installation out there that we used, and it proved to have some positive effects. So part of the solution was to put one of these in on a permanent basis. That's that big white tank you can see from driving by now. Well, at that point in time, we'd spent lots of money on consulting engineers and so forth on evaluating the problem and so forth, and this was a relatively straightforward installation of equipment, if you will. It didn't need a lot of design from engineers and so forth, so we proceeded to try to sort of go that on our own with ML and the guys at the water plant. It didn't go real well. Not that was any particular fault, but what the realization it brought to you was we were increasingly getting in over our head on things. The other thing that's been alluded to was shall we call it, janitorial issues and so forth. That was just sort of come to a head about a year ago, I guess I'd say. So you kind of put all these things together over the last several years, and you get to the point where, from my position at least, from where you think you need to address something at the water plant. The question is, what do you do to address that? Again, there was no specific incident, there's no pump breakdown, there's no any other thing. It's just an evolution that you think the world is changing on you, and you don't really have a lot of room for air and in drinking water, and how do you conjure a response? Well, I guess there are several options. One, you fire everybody out there and start over. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. A lot of people focus on ML. They say it's his fault. We ought to fire him, or at least tell him to focus on that almost all of his time to do that. Maybe that's an option.
I'll speak to that a little more in a minute. You could, I guess, hire somebody else to sort of go out there that had more technical expertise, more capacity in that specific function, and let them work out there. But that's going to cost you $50,000-$70,000 to hire another person. So, didn't really have a desire to do that. Or you could try to think of something else to do. So let's go over to ML for a moment. He's the Director of Public Works. He doesn't have a bunch of specialized training. He's not an engineer. I don't know that Boonville's ever had an engineer. You're not going to have the luxury of having high degrees of expertise in all the functions that we deal with in that position. Not going to have that luxury. So what is it that ML has on his plate? There's the water plant, there's water distribution, there's the wastewater plant, there's wastewater collection. I would hope everybody recognizes the challenges we have in wastewater and wastewater collection, and those can't take a back seat to anything at the moment. So you can evaluate that into your management structure. There's streets. There's drainage. It only takes about a day like Friday, and you've got 3 weeks of work following up on those calls and probably 2 years' worth of work. We have one project left from the rains we had 2 or 3 years ago, and it still isn't done. There's street lights. There's traffic signals. Street signs. Central garage mechanic. Nuisance abatement. Storm cleanup. Street markings. Planning and zoning interface, yard waste, contract management. This is largely unappreciated, but we do a lot of projects, public works projects here. We have an engineer on some of them, but you still have to manage those contracts, and we routinely do upwards of 10 contracts a year. That's a significant undertaking, because there's always something going on. When you're doing construction or reconstruction in an already built-up area, it never goes smoothly. Whether it's somebody backing over a mailbox or tearing up somebody's yard or making noise when somebody's trying to sleep in the day, there's always something going on and that doesn't include trying to get the contractors to do what you really want them to do. And then he has a budget for all this, and then there's 40 employees about under all this, and then there's sort of the kitchen sink. Everything else that comes up that doesn't belong in somebody else's home ends up in the street department too for them to do. So there's a lot there. We're not going to have any one person that has high expertise in all these areas. Just never going to happen. So given that context, what are the conclusions? You know, other than the janitorial issues, I don't know that any of this is anybody's particular fault. It's just the way the world is. It's evolved to where it is. So the question is, how do you fix it? It seems to me that Alliance gives us the opportunity to address these things with some specialized expertise. You're not going to compromise all these other functions that go on a daily basis and usually intrude to the front of the line. You can do this without any added cost. And Dave, I told you I would save some money, and Mr. Bosley, my number was 30, not 45. I'm not sure where that comes from. They may have, but if my number's always been 30. This is not necessarily a money-saving endeavor, but it does take the edge off on needing to hire specialized consulting engineer services. And you do this without giving up control. In spite of some of the comments, we're not giving up control. Alliance doesn't want to control our water system. They're just going to operate the plant. So that's kind of the situation where we're at now. It's an alternative. I think it's a decent alternative. The other side of the coin is you don't have to do anything. You can keep muddling along. The janitorial stuff, frankly, it's probably already fixed because, you know, somebody took a video of the conditions out there a few months ago. It's right here. Anybody can look at it if they want. So I suspect that word got around, and it's probably cleaned up pretty good now. But these other things aren't going to go away that easily. And so that's kind of the situation it is, and I put forth this as an alternative to, it saves a modest amount of money and gives you some degree of expertise without compromising your other functions. And on the other hand, you can muddle along and nothing may happen for several years, but it might happen tomorrow. So, that's about all I got.
Thank you, Earl. Steve?
As far as the city employees, do we have, anybody have any idea how many will actually be employed by Alliance? Do we know that?
Well, they're not required to hire anybody. They've said they would give a good faith effort to, in fact, hire anybody, and they hire everybody, and I'm led to believe that they will all get that opportunity, but they're not required to hire anybody. And if they do hire them and give them a chance, then it's a performance-based situation, and that's where they're at. So.
Questions? Mike?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on, when I first heard that Earl was considering this, I had reservations. I had a squadron in the Air Force of 400 people, and they outsourced half of my people, replaced them with 60 contractors. 200 people replaced by 60 people. It was basically, by design, a way to reduce my ability to do my job and save a lot of money in the course of it. I don't believe that's what Earl's trying to do here. He's not trying to cut our services, cut our capabilities. I'm not concerned about outsourcing from that, but I am generally concerned about it from another standpoint. I use a rule of thumb that you got to follow where the money goes. Where's the profit? Does it leave Boonville? It's our money. Is it leaving Boonville? Yeah, yes, this company is going to do this for profit. Some of it's going to leave Boonville. But we're at this crossroads because we are looking for solutions. And I tend to think that you hire your manager to come up with solutions. He's given his best shot at this. I trust him. And I believe that after 3 years, if we don't like where it's gone, we have the ability to come back and say, we want it changed. But I think this is an opportunity that he sees as the best for us, and I trust him on it.
Morris?
Earl, one of the questions that was brought up to me this afternoon was, why was there a line out there interviewing before the council even made a decision what they was going to do?
They've actually met with the employees several times to answer questions and just to familiarize them with what's going on. They asked if they could go out there and start the process prior to this vote, but after the last vote when there wasn't any comments from anybody. So they've always represented that none of it mattered if it didn't pass. So.
Then only other comment I've got is that, don't know if this is true or not, but as far as I'm concerned, it's been brought to my attention that some of the city employees have been told not to talk to the council. And
certainly hadn't been by me.
Only thing, this was brought up a few years back, the word was put out, but as far as I'm concerned, any city employee that wants to call a councilman, they're more than welcome, just like any public citizen.
Yeah.
And that,
my only observation of that, there is something in the code about council interference with daily operations too, so you need to keep that in mind.
Well, yes, and it also was brought up a few years back, if an employee is going to call and reference something personal, involving himself, that they should not call the council. But anyway, I think the door needs to be open, and the council needs to be aware of that, how to deal with that situation, but they shouldn't be told not to call us.
To my knowledge, they haven't been.
Well, that's it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
One more.
Yes.
Will they answer directly to the council, or will they answer to ML, or answer to you, or?
Well, they're happy to do whatever you want. I think it's specifically set up where they meet with ML daily and myself at least weekly, and more often if I so desire. There may be a couple of 6-month reports or something that I think are due, but they're going to go to the Board of Public Works also on a regular basis. So, if that's your desire, I think they'll be happy to accommodate that.
Okay. Any other questions? Morris?
No.
No? Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
how soon will this go into effect?
Assuming there's some action taken on it tonight, I think we were looking at July 1st.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Livingston,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Ayers,
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Hurst.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Item B, continued discussion on location of Central Missouri Cancer Memorial Park. Once again, you had a memorandum from Earl regarding the cancer park in your packet. Earl and I did meet with Charlie Mokersman about the potential park location, and you have that information in your packet. So we need to continue the discussion on the location for the Cancer Memorial Park. Steve?
I don't have a tranquil bone in my body, so you guys are gonna have to have some input here. I mean, where do you guys want it, Dane, Charlie?
They want camper.
Memo, I met with, conversation with each of the board members, put together a memo that indicated, the third was still focused on it was preliminary discussed and set aside at that point in time. That was the one that just got filled out.
Right.
Indicating that we would like to stay, in that Kemper area. The Earl's memo to the council, which outlines certain other locations. Appreciate the job that Earl did with that. That was kind of greasing the skids, so to speak, about trying to bring this to closure. There was another location that Earl threw out over near the president's house, so forth, and that was also specified in the memo that
Right.
really alluded to. And we placed that as our second option, which again was indicative that, our preference was to be at Kemper versus all the other options that Earl was so kind to really lay out, because again, the serenity and tranquility that was brought forth by several other people.
So we're down to two options?
Not particularly. Noah?
I think, there's been some discussion about the two locations, and regarding the first location, I know the previous council had voted on it and rejected that location, and since then, there has been some discussion. The Cancer Memorial people have come back with a second option, and I've said all along, I think, my opinion is we may have got bogged down a little bit in kind of turning the tables a little bit. This was never really a city project. It was always a Cancer Park, Memorial Park group project, and they're just asking for direction from us. And I've always thought we just need to give them an up and down vote. What I like to do is make a motion to lease land at Kemper Park near Science Hall for the purpose of creating the Cancer Memorial Park, subject to the final site plan being negotiated by staff and then final approval by the city council.
Can you read that one more time
Sure.
so everybody understands?
Make a motion to lease land at Kemper Park near Science Hall for the purpose of creating a Cancer Memorial Park, subject to the final site plan being negotiated by staff and final approval by city council.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Becky seconds it. Discussion. Noah?
I wanted to make sure that the motion contained the part about staff negotiating it. And the reason for that is that through all this talk, there's been a lot of concern about the site and how it would affect, the memorial park. How it would affect the site plan and everything. I think this gives our staff an opportunity to hammer out the best negotiated lease for the site and the site plan to make it conducive to our overall vision for Kemper for that location. This way, it's not a matter of them coming up with a plan and saying, this is it, this is what we're doing. It's not like that. City staff will have every opportunity to hammer out all the angles that they need to hammer out, and it will once again then come back through this body to make the final decision. and I'm sure it's gonna have to make several stops along the way. I'm sure planning and zoning may want a piece of it, maybe the Parks Committee may want a piece of it. I'm sure it's gonna have a lot of stops. I want everybody to understand, that this isn't a final decision, yes, you're gonna get it there. This is just saying that the staff can negotiate with a lease. It's not guaranteeing anything, because it's gonna have to be hammered out by staff, and then it'll have to come back through this body for one last final approval before that site and that site plan is approved.
Morris?
My question on that is this council has been looking at Kemper, for 15 years or so, trying to create a site plan. And we're no closer today of creating a site plan as we was when we purchased Kemper. And if they want to move forward, then we need to pick out a different location besides Kemper so that they can move forward with their plans and get this park constructed. Because I don't think staff or the council or anyone else can create a site plan for Kemper at this time when we don't know which direction we're going in.
Let me clarify something there, if I may, on that comment. It's not really a site plan for all of Kemper. It's just a site plan for this memorial park. They can devise their plan, bring it to us, and we can look at the plan they devise. Staff can have their say and input. All the committees and all the other planning, zoning, everybody else can have their input, and then they can decide if what's been developed is suitable for that location at that time.
Mike?
I think everybody has an opinion about Kemper and where it could go, and we all are probably at the same point, thinking that it has many possibilities, but we just don't know where it's going to go. No one has a crystal ball on that. I do have a problem with it being at Kemper because I see a clear academic possibility starting there, back up there. I would like to see that continue. I see the connection to the fields and parks and the idea of recreational use that has been used in the past as part of an educational foundation. It's not currently, obviously. There are school-age kids, but younger that used to play there, but still being reserved for that purpose. I see those two connections. I don't want to see another possible use created there, or even a fourth or a fifth possible. I don't want it to become too muddied where we don't really have a definition anymore about where we're going with Kemper. Two causes is enough for me. That is educational and recreational.
Becky? I know, I've received several comments and phone calls and discussions, and the people that have contacted me are in support of it at the Kemper location. It is and can be developed into a very serene location. I think it can be supportive of the academic environment that we are trying to develop at that portion in that area of the Kemper campus. There's a lot of land down there. There's a lot of buildings down there. And I think that, we've been talking about development of Kemper for how many years, but we need to start moving forward and we need to start doing something with it. And I think that the Cancer Park is something that is, will touch the hearts of everybody in this community and everybody in this area. And it's a place where a lot of people come, a lot of people gather. I think it's going to get a lot of visibility. And for that reason, I am supportive of it at that location.
What would be the other possibilities for use of this land by the field house? I mean, is it going to be dozed down, used for parking lots possibly sometime, or is there another use that would be better?
Well, I think you're going to have to eventually widen the entrance road that goes between, the D barracks and,
right.
That sort of is on the edge of that particular track, so it's going to get eaten into from the center there, if you would. You might put some parking kind of in a circle around it. I don't know that it's big enough, and there's some pretty decent trees in there, although they're aging, but so I don't know that you're going to put parking in there in it, but I think you could create pulley angle parking, coming in off the center drive and maybe even off that big wide sidewalk that's between Academic Hall and this space there. So you kind of shrink it maybe.
So do the plans have spots for parking Is it big enough for parking and
The original site that we designed was based on a recommendation by the city to put it next to the police station in the parking lot. So we designed it based on that, and there would already be parking there. We would build the park, fence it in between the wall of the police station south, or to the east, and then we would have our wall, and then there'd be parking in there that somehow didn't meet with approval, so we've been in limbo. We can't design anything until we know where we're gonna be at. Once we know where we're at, the dimensions that we have, then we can move forward with laying things out and designing it. But the original one was because that site was recommended to us, so we didn't have parking issues.
And I think you all were open to that site, weren't you?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you had something designed for that location, and we're doing a little fundraising for that location.
We were all for that site,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it just wasn't a possibility anymore.
Answer your question, or you have
well,
more?
what happened to the site that it's not a possibility anymore? That was over by the jail?
Well, we were told that the city didn't want to give up the parking, that we were gonna cut out probably 30 parking places. They didn't want to give that up, that's what we were told. So we started looking at other directions.
Steve, if I was enforced, again, to Dave's point, that's why we took a redirection with this. And, you know, as a board, we kind of threw out, you know, what are we looking for? And that was that tranquility and serenity. And that's why we then focused on that, you know, that point of it. In fact, Dane was one that kind of brought up, what about Kemper? What about that campus? And we talked that through thoroughly and really felt that that was the optimal place to be. And still you have to fit in with what are the streets strategic, because I can agree that the academic setting is where that's going to be possible. But this type of park would segue into that as well too.
Noah had his hand up first, I believe.
I think one of the issues too that maybe not have been touched on when it's concerning Kemper is that many times in tourism and economic development, you hear the phrase, especially when we talk about Kemper a lot, we talk about how it just takes one visitor to that campus to be the one individual that might fall in love with it, might come back and help develop it, might come back and fall in love with Boonville and might move back to Boonville. I think we can't discount the fact that this is a regional cancer memorial park. It'll be advertised as such, and it'll have the draw as such. So it's very possible we may have citizens north, south, east, and west of Boonville that will travel here to visit that site for different events, Relay for Life, I'm sure, and what other events that they put on. Maybe people will just come because they heard of it from word of mouth. I don't think you can discount the fact, though, that having it at that location does have the possibility that somebody who would come, I think when I had a discussion once with Marcia Drennan, she's commented to me it only took one visit to Kemper to sell her. And we all see it. I mean, she is madly in love with that campus and really believes in it 100%. And so I know the mission that they're trying to accomplish, and I know a lot of the discussion that's been had by this body about the vision and the future of Kemper. I don't think we can discount this as just a memorial park in the middle of our economic development. I think it can be developed to be a very good increment part of that campus. It's not like we're just going to stick we're not going to approve that. We're not going to approve an eyesore in the middle of our economic campus or our future vision. But I think at the very least, the organization has come to us with this location, and I think we deserve the vote to give them.
Morris, did you have a comment?
Yeah, only question I got, I didn't know the city council rejected that place next to the police department. I didn't know it was ever brought to us.
Well, I don't know that it was.
So, I mean, I didn't understand Dane's comment that the city said no, that we didn't want it down there, because I don't think it was ever brought to us.
It was never made, brought to a vote, no, but we were told that the city didn't want to give up the parking. So we thought, okay, we need to find a different location, so.
Becky, did you have a comment? You had your hand up a minute ago.
Well, I'm just curious, is that a viable option at
at this point, because it hasn't been brought forward before, other than the group indicating to us that they'd been told that it wasn't a possibility.
I suppose that's the council's decision. It would do away with a lot of parking spaces. Do you know the area that we're talking about? And currently, there is a lot of parking, animal control parks one of their vehicles there, some access, there's several vehicles.
Katie Fire.
Yeah.
And, but at the same time, we got a parking lot right across the street that they can park in.
Right. So I think
City
go ahead.
Services Building, there's parking out there. I mean, there's other city parking. Do we know how many parking spots would be lost at that location?
Did we get an estimate?
I don't remember. Frankly, my recollection was part of the issue was all the utility conflicts that were there on the corner, that both were construction conflicts as well as visual issues with it that made it unattractive. There's some telephone stuff there, there's some Union Electric stuff there. And
it's a big utility box. It's just right at the front of it.
Charlie, if you would go to the microphone, the people at home cannot hear unless you're on the
I'm sorry
microphone.
about that. It was told to us to come up here, and I apologize for that. But to Earl's point, and more to your point, no, it never did come to the city council. Those conversations that we had with Earl and them at that point in time, Julie. But, you know, as we talked through that, there were some of these, not necessarily showstoppers that came up, but again, to Earl's point, utilities, there's cosmetic issues. There was the actual, how much would you have to excavate in order to, you know, get the flatness of this as well too, and make it ADA accessible and the parking. So there was several issues that popped up with that, and at that point in time, you know, it was general consensus is let's discourage this spot and move forward, and that's when, you know, we looked at a couple of spots other than that, again, Kemper, and then Earl was so kind to put that memo together outlining, you know, several other possible locations, which I think Dane so eloquently spoke to as well too earlier in this meeting, so.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
So is the spot at Kemper better than the spot down by the police station?
Well, Kemper would allow us to, it would be more tranquil in Kemper, because it is, there's trees and that, whereas opposed to just a barren parking lot. We liked the original location because it gave us a triangulation of parks. You've got the Morgan Street Park, you've got the Veterans Park, and then we would be kind of in the middle. We loved that concept of it. Yeah, there were obstacles that we would have to overcome. There would be a lot more cost involved in doing the leveling of the ground, and there were some cosmetic things like the phone box and all of that. But all of those factors, even though we didn't come to the city council, it was, you know, we felt like, and the city also, that there were probably too many obstacles, including losing parking. Our park, our original design was 35 feet wide by 75 feet long, and it went right along the wall there where the police station is. So that you would lose probably 15 to 20 parking places right there, because where we came out to the right, you have the entrance coming into the parking lot, so you couldn't park anything there because it's the entrance. So there were considerable parking spaces lost, and there was some opinion in town. We were getting some feedback too that we don't have enough parking in town. So, okay, is there better places to go? Kemper would allow us to do a lot of things without the expensive cost of bulldozing and grading the land. So that's why we started looking at that.
Okay.
That's it.
Anything else?
My only caution on this, in locating it down at Kemper, is I understand that you want tranquility and serenity. And I think that's very important to you, because every single one of you that has spoken tonight, that's what you want. And what the city council's vision is for that campus is for it not to be a tranquil place, that it's a very vibrant place. Dr. Gann told us earlier that there may be 250 students there this fall. We've all been on campuses. Kids, you know, kids make noise. Kids goof around. They do all kinds of things. There's a ballpark within hearing distance of it. So there is, there's traffic. It's the second most highly traveled street in town. I understand what you want. I just want to make sure that you understand that we're working real hard to make that a very vibrant place where there's lots of people. So we have a motion on the floor, so any further discussion on that? Noah, would you please read your
Sure.
motion?
Motion to lease land at Kemper Park near Science Hall for the purpose of creating a cancer memorial park, subject to the final site plan being negotiated by staff, and then approved, a final being approved by the city council.
Okay. So city council would get to see what's actually going to go there and work out all the staff would be charged with working out all the details. But here again, I'd like to reiterate, this is the Cancer Memorial Park's project, so they need to be in charge of it and bring it to us. Okay? Okay? Roll call.
Livingston,
Yes.
Carter,
No.
Ayers,
Yes.
Heaton,
Yes?
Young,
Yes.
Kelly,
No.
Hurt,
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Okay. You have some direction. Okay. New business. Item A, first reading of bill number 2013-019, renewal of land lease agreement with Missouri Department of Natural Resources for the land under the caboose and railroad sign near the Katy Depot.
An ordinance of the City of Boonville, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to renew the land lease agreement with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for the land under the caboose and railroad signal for interpretation and historical display near the Katy Depot, providing an effective date therefore, and repealing all ordinances in conflict with this ordinance.
Thank you, Mary. Item B, action on EDA grant application submittal. We had a work session. Huh?
It's under new business? I thought we already had a first reading on this. We didn't?
No, we need
Am
to
I
take
confused?
action on it.
We had a work session.
We just had a work session. That was a work session tonight,
We've
wasn't
had two work
Both
sessions.
of them.
Okay.
Two of them.
Both of them, okay.
Okay. So we just need to make a decision if we want to move forward with this and make the applicant. Mike?
I'd like to make a motion, the city administrator is hereby authorized to submit a letter of commitment with the EDA grant application for the Science Hall Project Committee of the city to $1.5 million local share of the cost, primarily based on the financial plan submitted previously to the council.
Okay. Do I hear a second? Mark?
Second.
Discussion.
I just want to clarify that all we're doing here is proceeding with the application.
Yes.
And technically, you might say indirectly committing, but right now, all we're doing is telling the staff to proceed and see what develops.
Correct. Jim, you would agree with that? Okay. Other discussion? Question, Noah?
I would agree with that, but I'd also emphasize that I certainly would not want to vote for this, get the grant approved, and then change my mind.
Yes.
It's certainly not something we want to do.
Yes.
So personally, I think we need to be committed. If we're going to do it, we need to do it, because by the grace of God, if they actually approve our application, I don't want to send Jim down there. We'd send Jim down there and tell him that we can't do it.
That's true, because it puts a black mark by your name for the rest of the life, so we don't want that. Do we? Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Livingston,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Ayers,
Yes.
Heaton,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Hurt.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Gann, for your workshops and all the time that you have devoted to this project. Thank you. Reports of standing committees. Board of Public Works. Noah?
That was the very first meeting I was assigned to, and I already had traveled. I was out of town, so I didn't go. But obviously, the minutes, the major points of that, which we've sort of already exercised tonight, was that the Board of Public Works also unanimously wish to recommend that we approve the water treatment plant being managed outsourced, so otherwise that's, the rest of it's in the notes.
Okay, any questions for Noah on that? Thank you, Noah. Parks Board, Morris?
We had a good meeting at the Parks Board. Park Department is moving forward with, getting all of our parks ready for the summer and, the swimming pool. And you all have the minutes there. If you got any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions? Noah?
Here, you don't have any old Gila suits you can don, and you don't have any of those old Gila suits from the Army you can don and hide out in the bushes and catch all these vandals?
No, sir. I could buy one, but if I caught them, I couldn't do anything with them.
Yeah. How about the camera? Is that, I know in your minutes
The
you're
cameras have been
rolling.
ordered,
Okay.
and as soon as they arrive, we will commence installation.
Okay. It's a shame. Seems like every year we get this vandal stuff going on down there, we just can't stop it.
Morris?
I was just gonna make a comment that was thoroughly discussed at the Park Board, and we just will face it, it might come to the decision to close Lions Park if it keeps up. I mean, if not, some of the reports that was brought to the Park Board, we could have a bathroom down there that was burnt up. And so the kids and the public needs to be aware of that, they need to start either turning in the ones that's doing it, or they might end up with, no park there.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Well, and eventually somebody will get hurt there, and it's just a bad situation. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Street, Alley, and Sanitation Board, Noah?
We had no meeting, we had no agenda.
Okay. Report of city officials, city administrator.
I have nothing further.
Mayor, I have nothing. City councilor?
Nothing this evening.
City clerk?
Nothing to report.
Miscellaneous.
I got one.
Morris?
ML, if you could, I think on Bingham Road in Reams, there used to be a spark plug there.
Where?
Bingham and Reams.
That's right, yeah,
And
that's,
never pulled out, and never was replaced.
no, not never was replaced, hasn't been replaced
Okay, it
yet.
hasn't been replaced yet, and it's been taken out, what,
Yeah,
3 or 4
taken
months
out.
ago?
It had a leak, actually the leak on the line going to the fire plug, it was in the middle of the winter, we had to move some snow around to work on that, we haven't gotten back to get it put back
Do
in.
you have any idea when it might be?
No, but I can work on that.
Well, the neighbors are concerned, so if we could, we need to get that put back in.
Yep.
Okay. Any other miscellaneous?
While I have ML up there. I would want to apologize for saying that there was no three-way marking on the stop signs next to the Hitch House there. There is three-way marking. I still say that if traffic increases out of that road and parking from behind there, that it would be safer to consider a four-way stop there than to continue with a three-way stop. Right now, there's not a lot of traffic coming up that road, but people get confused and start edging out in front of traffic because it's a hill and you may not see traffic coming up until right as it gets to the top. So, something to consider.
That's the intersection of Third and Vine Street.
It is.
Yeah, the eastbound direction of Vine, there's no stopping coming up that hill, is what he's talking about.
I don't know if it'd be appropriate to even consider just making that a one-way street going down the hill, and then we just totally avoid a collision at that intersection. There's only 3 houses that border that entire block, and one of them has access, no, 2 of them have access to Third Street. So really, you're only talking one house that would always have to go down the hill to go out Second Street.
Yeah, we'd have to, and that's probably a good idea, we'd have to look really carefully at the parking for the Kemper around back, if we can do it all off Second Street.
He's got to show you that's the main exit area for the camera. Ones that don't understand are the east first, the casino, both the car like where the little put it on, as well as coming together, quite a few RVs.
Any other miscellaneous?
I have one more park, or traffic, or street and road one, out there by McDonald's. I think in the planning and zoning some time ago, we spoke about maybe putting a turn lane there. Was it America's Way or whatever that is? You know, there's a lot of out-of-town people who run in there for gas or run in there for McDonald's, and they like to park right in the middle of the road, turning right. And there's room there. Looks like there's room for, we've seen cars 3 abreast there, so leaving America's, I don't know why we can't have a dedicated turn left lane and a dedicated turn right lane.
So this is on Americana?
Americana,
Not B?
so it is. Yeah, to look at having a left turn and a right turn.
Straight. Taco Bell.
Yeah, right.
It can be straight and left, and then right.
Any other miscellaneous? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.